Well, we've got Stephanie and Larry.
And then that one lady.
And I got this computer. So the computer that is just streaming the meeting, I was able to put virtual background. So when nobody's over here, it's just the city logo instead of like the empty room
Yeah.
and the lights.
Oh, that's weird. Look at, I go on to, why does that happen? It's magic, Katie. Not on, right?
No.
Oh, but Stephanie and Larry can see me.
Larry's laughing at it. No. Hello.
The phrase ethereal comes to mind.
Yes. Oh, the things. My kids were at my mom's house over the summer on a Tuesday, and they were watching the meeting, and my mom said, "Wow, she looks so young." It's because there's filters.
So that means I look young too, right?
Yeah.
Cool. That's funny because I had asked my wife, I said, really, you should tune in, and I guess I'm curious to know what this actually looks like. Maybe I'm not.
I mean, it looks pretty much like if you were to put it on speaker view, that's
Right.
what it looks like. I mean, I
So
keep
that what they see, what hits the airwaves is the primary window that's in focus.
yes.
And that's controlled by settings at your desktop, I would imagine.
Oh, this computer. I have a different laptop for the streaming, the host.
So you could transmit like that gallery view if you had that selected on your desktop.
Yeah, so it would show everybody. I put it on speaker view, and then once it's on speaker view, when you're full screen, there's like a little bar, and you can click how many squares you want it to show. And I always just click the single square so that whoever is the speaker is the whole full screen.
Okay, so I've been dying to ask. So like when when you do the roll call votes, you know, Stephanie will say yes, and then I'll see her picture come up on the screen. Chris
Yeah.
will, and I see everybody's picture come up, but I don't see mine come up when I say yes. Do you see?
The last meeting, I think you said yes, and I heard you, but you didn't come up for some reason a couple of times during the roll call. But normally you would.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because that's what I do the minutes from. Now, normally if we're all together, then I hand take notes for the minutes, but now I'm running
Right.
two laptops, so I can't do the
Right.
notes as well. So
Right. Right.
when I do the minutes, I usually do them from the video because
Okay.
we don't do completely abbreviated minutes where we would just put like the city council minutes. They just say, the subject was opened and then this was the vote and that's it. And I do a semi-narrated minutes
Right. Right.
so that for posterity's sake, especially for the planning commission, just because so much of what we do has to do with land use. And then we have to go back later, and look at, well, what happened when the subject came up before. So we want to have a little bit of history of it.
Right, and that's and they're public meetings, and there may be times and things that we discuss that people actually care about. We hope so. And therefore a good narrative could be helpful. Hi, Liz.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Erin.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
You as well.
Erin's from Chicago, so is it cold there?
Not today. We're kind of like every day is a different season right now, which
Yeah.
is, I guess, when I think about it, pretty typical for October, but everyone's in a mad dash to enjoy the outside.
Yeah, good. Well, it's unseasonably warm here. It's in the 70s.
Yeah, so it's 70 here, but
Okay.
it's October and people are wearing puffy winter coats, so.
Oh, really? I think our weather's turning Mediterranean here. That's what it seems like. Which is not good for the redwoods,
Not
but
in December and January, but
yeah. How much time do we have? Oh, we have 10 minutes. All right. Well, I'm gonna do some paperwork here, so I'll see you guys in a few minutes.
Oh, hey, can I ask, Liz?
Yeah.
So design review, how about that house which is being painted black?
Oh,
Ninth-
I'll check the zoning. I think that's in the residential zone,
Okay,
which is not subject to design review.
right, no, it's just, it's interesting. I don't recall ever seeing a house painted black, you know?
Yeah.
And
No,
and-
absolutely.
And they change less than I used to.
It is, if you look it up, it's actually a little bit of a trend right now, especially in Victorian homes. But if you
Wow.
Google it, you'll see a lot of really kind of stunning, beautiful examples if it's done right, you know, on the right type of house. Sometimes they use like 2 shades of black and they'll have some interesting landscaping. So it's usually done, you know, like by a designer or something where it's kind of artistic and, you know, if you can get past the black color, but in photographs, like in architectural or design magazines, you will see examples of it. I did drive by that house and I don't know if they're gonna rise up to that standard because it looks a little poorly done, I guess you could say. But
that's on the corner of 9th and N Street, right?
yeah.
Yes.
I noticed they had done like one side. Have they come around to N Street yet?
No,
Okay.
No.
Hopefully they'll stop.
it's, yeah, it's trendy. That's interesting. Apparently I'm not following, I'm
Yeah.
not very trendy. Wow.
Yeah, it's worth looking into. At least, you know, you'll understand what they're trying to do.
I thought it might be like for Halloween, you know?
Yeah.
The
Maybe it
TV's
is.
not on yet, right, Katie?
No,
Okay, good. Thank you.
I don't
Yeah,
think so.
I had to ask. Hey,
My
Kevin.
audio on?
Yes.
Okay. Just checking, because last time I had an issue.
No, you sound good.
All right, we have quorum.
We need 4, Katie?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm going to be back in about 30 seconds here.
Right.
I need 20.
And just so everybody knows, this is not an adult beverage.
This is a beverage. It's called
And
water.
you're not telling what's in it either, are you?
Sure I am. It's water. Well, another beverage does sound good. It's happy hour somewhere, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Most likely.
If only I had a drinking problem some days. I'm grateful I don't. Just three of us, huh?
Or and
Stephanie's on there, but I don't know where she is.
She's hiding.
So Vice Chair Rogers, looks like you're running.
Oh, I'm still, yeah.
I haven't heard from anybody that they won't be here, so.
So the good news is both of my dogs are laying down quietly for now.
I just had my wife take our dogs out of the room.
I saw one cruising back and forth. Looks pretty cool. What kind of dog?
I have a miniature Chihuahua that's about 5 pounds, and she rules the house. I have a 7-month-old American Rot mixed with German Shepherd, more Rot than German. And then I have I think he's a mixed American Husky and something else. He's the smart one and the old fella. I mean, he's trained he could spell. He'll shut doors if you tell him to. Perfect
Wow.
therapy dog if you need a therapy dog.
Interesting. Okay, mine are both Husky mixers, and one of them really, I think, could be a very good, dog that helps you out or something. He'll wake you up and make sure the day starts on time, and all that. He's got an internal clock that's.
Yeah, it depends on what is a good time though. Ours is 4 a.m.
Yeah, that's about when Rafe will stick his head under the covers and grab my leg if I'm not responding to him.
There you go.
And he's big enough to actually could probably pull me out of bed,
Yeah. Yeah, our dog Rags is supposed to be somewhere around 85 pounds by the time he's grown to 110.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
My vet told me that both were overweight. But Rafe.
You got saved by the bell, Larry.
Oh,
There he is.
I'm here. I'm here.
yeah.
How's everybody?
Hi, Chris. Good.
What's happening, everybody?
Oh, not much. We were waiting for you to start the party.
Oh no, you're not. Wait for me. Where's everybody? Where's the rest of our crew? I know there's more than a few ladies that we're waiting for.
No, everybody's there.
I'm here.
I'm here. Okay, I hear somebody in the background.
I see.
I think everyone's here but Rachel, and I think I'll be calling Rachel to see if she is intending to stay on the commission or not, and see how she's doing.
She having some issues?
We haven't really heard. She has not been, which is really unlike her,
Right.
Yeah.
to go from 90% to 0. So, I mean, we've been concerned, so we'll give her a call tomorrow.
Please.
Yeah.
So how's everybody doing?
Good. So Chris, we were talking about black houses.
Glass houses?
Black.
Black houses?
Black.
Yes.
Ooh,
As in ninth and N.
I haven't seen that one yet. Am I missing something?
Yeah, in some sort of way. I thought it was for Halloween, but apparently not.
Oh,
Very trendy.
I guess I'm gonna have to come by and look at ninth and N.
Well, black is very slimming.
There you go.
It looks
it-
really
it's-
great, but at the same time, it's really sad when they cover all the gingerbread. I mean, it's
Yeah.
definitely a statement. I've seen them done with some accents of gray and white undertones, and that I think that looks a little better. So that,
A little, yes.
yeah,
Polite
I
way
kind
of
of like.
putting it.
Is it complete? Is it done?
No.
We
Hey,
can't
Dan.
just non-finished product. Maybe it's gonna be amazing.
I'm not
That's
holding.
what I always tell everybody about me.
What, that you're amazing?
No, that I'm an unfinished product and don't judge.
Work in progress, yes.
I definitely a work in progress.
Yeah.
But if anybody's running around, come by Shamrock in Springville and look at the giant pumpkin man.
Oh,
Come by at night and see him all lit up. Got a 12-foot pumpkin scarecrow man. Looks
Is that
pretty
your
cool.
Is that in your neighborhood?
That's my house.
Okay. I didn't know.
Yeah. Check him out. We finished on Sunday night. Me and my son had them all set up. About 11:30, I couldn't sleep. I still wound up, and I'm sitting there with the window open because it was a little warm, and I hear something. I go, "What the hell is that?" I look outside. Somebody had stopped, backed up, got out of their car, and started taking pictures. I started laughing. I'm like, "Okay, well, my son's gonna be very happy that people are taking interest." So he
Excellent.
looks pretty cool. He does. He looks pretty cool. So Katie, do you have, while we're sitting here, do you have the phone number and?
I
'cause there's a
do.
lot- So you're gonna have a flash up there of what
So
you're
I've
supposed to
updated
do?
the graphic that we normally do, so it will have the Zoom call in.
You're awesome. So I don't have to read that number
No.
10 times. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So is anybody else gonna have trick or treaters?
I hope
We
not.
are
That would
going
have-
to hang candy on our fence. We do a big graveyard. So my daughter and I are going to tape Christmas ornament hangers to all the candy. And then we have a hog wire fence and just cover the entire fence with candy, and then kids can
Wow.
take them as they please.
Hope they don't come by. I have more chocolate for myself.
Us too, last time. But I didn't complain.
See, Stephanie's laughing at me. Thing is, you'd probably be right there with me.
Sorry, I couldn't find my unmute. I had the candy in the house for like an hour and I already went crazy, so I took it back to work.
Well, are we ready to start this show? Everybody here that we're gonna be here?
We're ready.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Planning Commission, Fortuna Planning Commission. I'm going to start off with the flag salute. I'm going to lead the flag salute, just like always, while we're on the Zoom thing. Please understand there's no disrespect in that people aren't standing and everybody is not participating. It's just the fact that what's going on in the world at the moment. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get the roll call, please?
Right. Commissioner Blakely,
Here.
Commissioner Bradley,
Present.
Commissioner Church,
Here.
Commissioner Hallie,
Here.
Commissioner McClendon,
Here.
Chairman Mobley,
Here.
Commissioner Moore is not here, and Vice Chair Rogers.
Here.
Right, thank you. Can we get approval of the September 22nd minutes, please?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
I'll second.
Can I get a call, please? Roll call, please.
Roll call vote again. Commissioner Blakely,
Yes.
Commissioner Bradley,
Yes.
Commissioner Church,
Yes.
and Commissioner Hallie.
Yes.
Commissioner McClendon,
Yes.
Chairman Mobley,
Yes,
and Vice Chair Rogers.
Yes.
thank you. So we're going to open oral comment from the public. Katie's going to flash some information up. So anybody at home that wants to call in, there's going to be a number up. There's some buttons to push, and there you go. So members of the community can comment on any subject that they're interested in that is not on the agenda tonight. Please understand that the commission cannot take any action or deliberate why this is that's not, the subject is not on the agenda. So if you'd like to call in, you have any thing you want to talk about, please call in right now. At that number that you see on the screen, follow the instructions, and we'd like to hear from you. Katie, can you hear me?
I am not getting any raised hands.
Okay, so Katie, on your flyer, you got up on this thing. It says press *9, and on the flyer you showing, it doesn't show that. Should we be talking about it or not? So where it says after the passcode, it says press *9.
Excuse me. Yes, I think that you just did. I don't think that we have any calls.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen home, we'll continue on with this, and if anybody at any time has something open that they want to talk about, please do that. At the end of pressing the password, hit *9 and you'll be able to get kicked right in. So I'm looking for a motion to close public comment.
I'll make the motion to close public comment.
I'll second that.
Lady, please.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Blakely,
Yes.
Commissioner Bradley,
Yes.
Commissioner Church,
Yes.
Commissioner Hallie,
Yes.
Commissioner McClendon,
Yes.
Chairman Mobley,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Rogers.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So let's get on to business. We only have one good topic tonight, and that is consideration of a recommendation to the City Council regarding amendment to Title 17 zoning regulations of the City Municipal Code, adding section 17.06.220 small wireless communication facility sections, 17.07004 administration. Can we get some background on this, and that way everybody understands what we're talking about?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Mobley and Planning Commissioners. So this ordinance, it's a draft ordinance that comes before you basically in an effort to get ahead of any issues if any applications are submitted for a wireless cell facility. So we don't have an application yet, but we understand that because of this new, and ever expanding technology associated with cell phones and cell transmission, that the technology is changing. And so, where we were, in the, I want to say the old days, but, typically normally we would be processing the large cell towers like we have on Dinsmore Drive. But with the technology now, the coverage needs to be denser and so more frequent spacing of the poles and the antenna, and shorter poles. So that's densification. So cities are facing, they're constructing these in, I think, typically in larger cities, and they're, basically looking at all of the cities where they're going to have to be doing this in the future and just doing their long-term planning, or at least they're planning for the next couple of years until the technology expands or changes again. So in anticipation of that, we have been contacted by at least one carrier, and they've been kind of urging us on and meeting with us and kind of supporting us as we go through the process of creating an ordinance. And, and the good thing is, it's, there's a lot to the technology and a lot to the ordinance. So, I want to thank you for your patience in taking this on and studying it and, in order to make a recommendation. But I forgot what my point was going to be, but, so there are a lot of examples out there that other cities have already gone through this process. And so we were able to review other cities' ordinances. And this, I think ours is really typical. We have to work within what the FCC will allow under, state or federal codes and state codes as well. We're somewhat limited in what we can do. But, basically, we are allowed to have a certain level of design standards and location preferences. So we've worked that into the ordinance. And I should probably get started so I'm not sitting here chatting for a long time before we go through the PowerPoint. So these are the regulatory limitations. There are the main one, I think, regarding the small. So we're dealing with small wireless facilities. And the federal government, the FCC, did recently, in 2019, issue an order, and it preempts local agencies from, this is actually the older, I think. Anyway, this is already in existence. So local agencies may not prohibit based on radio frequency as long as that frequency is demonstrated to fall within the levels allowed by federal regulations. And we cannot deny the carrier the ability to provide wireless services or to close the gap, meaning to have, full coverage. There's a 6409 permit, which prevents local governments from controlling the modifications to existing facilities. So, if a carrier wants to upgrade or add antenna, then cities may not prohibit that. And what we may do is regulate the design and aesthetics of wireless cell facilities. We can establish discouraged and preferred sites and locations. and require them to provide coverage in the least intrusive manner feasible. And that's what we went for on this ordinance. And I think it accomplishes that. So the purpose is to prevent unsightly facilities, especially in visually sensitive areas. And so these are some examples of, I guess, what you would call unsightly facilities. Just with, fully exposed, multiple antennas, without any consideration for visuals. And we'll get into that in a little bit. So what this ordinance does is specifically deal with small wireless facilities or small cell facilities. And it's defined, those are defined by the FCC order that was issued in 2019. And so, the small facilities are no higher than 50 feet, including the antenna, or if they're mounted on a structure no more than 10% taller than other adjacent structures. So it keeps it, within a normal range for any particular neighborhood. Or, my screen is bothering me. Oh, there we go. Not extending. If they're on existing structures, then not to exceed a height of more than 50 feet or 10%, whichever is greater. And then also the antenna is no greater than 3 cubic feet in volume, and that all other wireless equipment is no more than 28 feet in volume. Also that no human exposure to radio frequency in excess of FCC guidelines, not located on tribal lands, and not requiring an antenna registration. So that's the definition under the FCC, and that's the definition of the small wireless facility in the ordinance. So we just adopted we would adopt their definition. And so, there's a couple of categories in the ordinance, proposed location standards. And what the ordinance does is it encourages, it doesn't particularly mandate, it just, the more, if they're in compliance with the preferred locations and the design standards, then the permitting is facilitated. And, the further they get away from those preferred items, then additional, a public hearing would be triggered, either with the planning commission or with the city council. And that's been created in the code. So the preferred locations are alleys in non-residential zones, because it's perceived that, that there's going to be less visibility, and there's already, alleys are kind of intended for infrastructure and just different activities like that. City-owned parcels or the right-of-way, and non-residential zones. Discouraged locations are residential zones, and then Main Street, 12th Street, and Riverwalk Drive. So those are, the more sensitive, I guess, neighborhoods or boulevards where there's a little bit more planning, a little bit more, visibility, encourages economic development and tourism and things like that. So we want to protect the visual nature of those streets. And then they may be located in a discouraged location, but they would go to a publicly noticed hearing and demonstrate the least intrusive means possible, which means they would have to demonstrate that that there's no other feasible alternative in order for them to get coverage, that they would need to be in those. So they would, part of the application then would be reports that would demonstrate that those locations are needed. And then the design standards, least public visibility. So there's some screening standards. Stealth design also includes screening standards, which are a little bit more detailed in the ordinance. Equipment screening, the height limitation for the zone. So the height is established by the zoning district in which they're located. And usually those are between like 32 and 48 feet. Setbacks. So the design standards encourage location within the setbacks and not within, the non-setback areas. Co-location is encouraged. Architectural screening. So, they can be placed on buildings, and then any element of the building is used for screening. So it could be the same material, or could be, a chimney or a steeple or something like that. New monopoles are discouraged. So, and that kind of goes back to co-location, where it's encouraged that they would be co-located either on an existing antenna pole, which I'm not sure, I don't think we have any in Fortuna, or on street lights or other utility poles. And then again, design exceptions are allowed by the Planning Commission and the City Council. So nothing is absolutely prohibited. It's just the streamlining encourages compliance with the standards, and at least the standards are identified. And also through the public hearing process, the exceptions that are being proposed can be more carefully considered and alternatives suggested and things like that. So, so these are some examples of architectural and other types of screening. So these in the code, these are called stealth features. So here the antenna are hidden in landscaping, and even if it's a fake tree, it still kind of blends in and doesn't project out visually. This is in a false chimney. Here, I believe these are the cells, these square features that just look like, part of the structure. And so with the same material and same color. And here we have a pole that is disguised as a flagpole. Let's see. Oh, here are just some examples. This is a strand antenna, and it's pretty well screened. It just looks like part of the, the phone line or the power line. I guess that'd be a phone line. Here's another example of a cell, a tall monopole and antenna that's within the trees. And then this one isn't exactly screened, but I think, visually it kind of blends in with the light. So because it's kind of sleek, it's this one, the antenna isn't like jutting out or, and I think this is part of the antenna as well. And, visually people are just going to kind of assume that this is just a street light. So then there's a tiered permit system, and that's the streamlining thing. So there's a tier 1 and 2, which are both administrative permits. And then tiers 3 and 4 are the public hearing. And they encourage appropriately designed and sited facilities by offering a streamlined over-the-counter permit. And those that are without the stealth design or in a discouraged location would be subject to planning commission or council use permit. And this is the table describing more specifically the types of facilities. This first one is, actually that's a protected one mandated by federal law. It's called a section 6409 permit, and that's required. So that's modification to an existing facility that would be like an over-the-counter automatically approved, I think with a building permit. And then the tier 2 are the preferred design standards and location. So there's types of facilities, and they would be stealth designed, and then preferred locations. And those would be approved by the zoning administrator as a new permit that we would add to the code called a minor use permit. And that's really just an administrative. So if they meet the standards, then that permit is issued. And then 3 is the stealth pole mounted facility in the right of, this one is based on the residentially zoned property. So it can be a stealth pole, or it would be, they would be designed to be camouflaged, but now they're in residential zones. So that would go to the planning commission under a use permit. And then any non-stealth facility in the protected zones would be approved by the city council. So in that way, hopefully this will encourage providers to, they want to get their permit through quickly. And so they're going to, do the stealth and kind of look around for locations and designs that are not going to require a public hearing, because, once a public hearing is required, there's the additional time frame, but also it's a public hearing where neighbors are going to be noticed and, have the opportunity to protest, and just, that's something that is really preferred to be avoided by the providers. So, Then the least intrusive means, so if a cell facility is not stealth and it's not, so if it is located in a discouraged location, then they're required to demonstrate why it's necessary. So they're going to provide the coverage maps, alternative sites analysis, and this could be reviewed by an independent expert. So they would need to demonstrate why that site is needed and why the preferred design or location would not be met. And other performance standards include noise, maintenance requirements, minimal lighting, radio frequency to meet FCC standards, and then removal if the facilities aren't used, if they're non-operational for 90 days or more. Oh, okay. So let me see if I think that's all I have. I'm sure you have some questions. There's more to the code than that. I just wanted to, give just the basic presentation. And again, I know that this is, kind of a learning experience, definitely for staff, and for, probably the planning commission as well. So we appreciate that. This was also reviewed by the city attorney for the liability and some other legal sections, and also by the city manager. And then there is a representative from US Cellular. They've been supportive, just giving some basic review and some comments. I think that has helped clean it up a little bit. I'm sure it's not perfect at the moment. I mean, there's just so many different directions this could take. And, every city has a slightly different take on it. This does, again, represent what I think complies with the, the regulations, but also allows flexibility for the city. And I think it, it should get us through at least for the foreseeable future while we're under this technology that's being pursued at the moment for, for everybody's optimal cell, cell service that we've come to expect. So with that, I'll turn that back to the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Liz. So anybody have any questions for Liz before we start opening it for public comment?
So I did. So it looks like you guys did a pretty thorough job of drafting that, which is excellent. I feel like you covered everything that could possibly come up at this point, being that you haven't approved any of those yet and you haven't gone through this before. So my question is, once this is adopted and we go through a few permit processes, and say we feel as though we left something out, what is the process and how easy is it to change it once it's been adopted?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Absolutely, it can be amended. I do feel like I think that's a good perception of yours, that as we go through a few of these, we might see where things can get amended, either to clarify or to, have some other kinds of standards. But yeah, I think as we go through a few of these, through discussion is how it can get brought up. It could be, we discuss things during at the end of the planning commission meetings, or things get brought to the council, and we're actually having a priorities meeting on Monday afternoon with the council. So that's kind of the time when the council can indicate, staff brings things to the council, or someone from the public brings it to the council, or whatever. So, we can have a communication process in that regard. But yeah, definitely, I think going through this process and having gotten to this point, I'm a lot more comfortable now than I was at the beginning. But again, there's just so many good examples out there. It was almost hard to, choose what kind of a format. I mean, they're all so similar, and yet each jurisdiction has a different take. And I think that this is something that we can I think it's to be expected that we will change this, especially with the changing technology.
Okay.
So, the providers are kind of looking out, just like a 2-year period, like maybe 3 years, and then the technology is going to be changing. They might have different, whatever kind of equipment and projections and things like that. So, yeah, I think that that's definitely something that could be done and could be almost expected.
Okay, thank you.
Liz, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So if, consumer demand for 5G services, the bandwidth and all that stuff increases, it would seem to be problematic, expensive, or time consuming for residential areas to be a discouraged antenna location if you really need every 300 to 500 foot to space these antennas. That's would seem to be expensive and time consuming at a minimum, which drives up the cost for people. Any comment?
I think that maybe as a question for the provider. I mean, I think they have an expectation of the area that they want to cover. And I think maybe we can have the provider, if you're ready for that, to have her answer that. If that's something that,
Anybody else have any questions for staff? Okay, so yeah, let's bring in the provider. See what, who is it?
yeah, it's Erin Waits from US Cellular.
Hi, Erin. Are you on?
Hi. Good evening, planning commissioners. Thank you for your time tonight. As Liz mentioned, we have been working together. I just have like 2 minutes of like a brief comment, and then I think I can answer the 5G question and that sort of thing. But so I'm the network zoning and build compliance manager for US Cellular, working on our small cell deployment. And as you can kind of see, they're pretty minimal. They're nothing like the traditional cell towers and that sort of thing. And they're typically, attached to poles, be it a new pole that looks like existing streetlights or utility poles, or, attaching to a streetlight or a utility pole. And typically in that public right of way, because what small cells do is they complement and enhance the wireless infrastructure network by densifying and providing additional capacity. So we're currently proposing 7 small cells, which we believe fall into tiers 1 and 2. And with coordination from our site acquisition firm Tilson, we plan to request a pre-application meeting with the city once the ordinance is approved and finalized, so that we can actually go through site by site on what our locations are and what design we have before we actually begin to submit applications. And our hope is to submit these applications no later than January. And really, we feel overall that during this time, it's so important to make sure that those residents in your community that are US Cellular customers, we're able to provide this necessary and critical infrastructure to keep people connected, not just within the community, but throughout really the entire world. Right now, many people are work, living, playing at home, and so we're relying on our phones in different ways than we ever have. It's less getting on your phone and talking, but more possibly doing work on your phone, playing games on your phone. And so that data is really critical in the way that it enables us. So I want to thank you all for your time. Happy to answer any questions. And specifically with 5G and residential. So these sites are not 5G that we're proposing today. We do anticipate that in the next 2 to 5 years that we'll be upgrading to 5G. And the great thing about small cells is it will just be swapping antennas. So we'll just be able to come in and get permitted to do that work, to swap out and work through that. I can't, it's hard to like speculate if they'll be residential or not, because we'll have to see where, you know, the need continues to remain. But our goal really with cities, as we're kind of working on providing these upgrades, is to provide a map and an overview of where we're looking to be targeting, and know that within the next 6 months to a year after installing, we'll have a better understanding of, have we been able to, you know, cover the gaps and provide the necessary support that's needed for the network and for the customers.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
You work for US Cellular, and so you are going to put up these antennas
Poles
around.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the other carriers? Are they going to have to put their own up?
Yes. So I will say, like, RF engineers are working to design poles that would allow for multi-carrier use. It's not totally there yet, because it would, you know, we don't like being above 50 feet. I know Liz had mentioned something like 32 to 48 feet. That's definitely, you know, where we typically fit in. So the problem with having multi-carriers on a pole is then sometimes maybe you'd need to go above 50. And well, one, the FCC says no, small cells can't be above 50. So technology is not totally there yet. I think it's coming. Because I think what you could see in the future is that in one area, maybe there's two carriers that have poles within maybe the same few blocks. And then there's a third pole that they're sharing with some additional antenna.
Oh,
So
you're talking about potential to be covered up with these things.
I'm sorry?
Yes. So we have the potential to be covered up with these things.
I mean, I don't want to speak speculatively because I'm not sure. You know, some people on their towers are able to provide more, but what we know specifically in Fortuna is that we have some data needs that we're not being able to meet. And the solution for that is small cells and locating them on poles in the public right of way so that we're next to that end user.
So you're saying yes?
Well, I don't want to speculate for others.
So I am an honest guy, and I say what's right and what's wrong, and that's what I've always been. So what we just discussed is that throughout the cellular community, you're going to have your poles, they're going to have their poles, and somebody else is going to have their poles. Is that right or wrong?
Yes.
Okay, that's the right answer right there.
Yeah, and Aaron, you had said seven poles right now.
Yep.
So 7, and I think maybe there's 4. I'm not sure how many carriers are in Humboldt.
Technically 3 now. Yeah.
Okay, so that's, you know, potentially 21 poles for now. You know, and that's give or take. You know, more as the area expands or as the need expands, but
yeah,
you know, a rough estimate might be 21
mm-hmm.
or 28.
I got a question, and I'm sure other people are going to ask this question because we've heard it all the time. And I know it's in the federal law about health concerns. So,
mm-hmm.
what are the health concerns? What are we talking about? Because I know we're going to get this question asked.
So I am happy to provide Liz after this meeting with what CTIA, which is the industry group, has put together that addresses all health and safety concerns. I can say that what the FCC has outlined is RF emissions. Small cells operate far below that level due to just the lower bandwidth of it all. But I'm happy to provide those specifics that will hopefully address any concerns that you may have or that constituents may have.
So there's health concerns.
No,
so
I'm just saying, I'm saying kind of industry, the CTIA has worked with various organizations to kind of proactively address and kind of confirm that there is no health concerns.
There's no health concerns.
No, there is nothing proven.
Okay. So you're going to provide it after we have a meeting. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm a real honest guy, and I have a whole lot of people that are out there that always ask me these questions, and I have to go back to them on my end and say, Chris, you didn't push hard enough, or you didn't ask the right question, and you let the person skate by. And I don't want to hear skate by. Yes, no, I'm a pretty direct guy. Are there or are there not?
There is no proven facts based on what CTIA has provided me.
Okay. All right.
So
Google would differ.
I can tell you that there are various organizations that are looking to do studies. It's just too new of technology. So I have what I have from CTIA. I apologize that it's not as direct. I understand that, and I understand your position.
No, it's not a direct. And we need to get down to brass tacks, and brass tacks is, it's a yes or no. There's no, if there is some type of health concerns, we need to know that.
To my knowledge, there is not. Based on the organization that I am part of, we do not believe that there is.
Okay. Is there other organizations out there that have health concerns that you know
I believe that there are. I don't know names of specific organizations.
Okay. That's where we're going.
Oh.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, but we had not discussed this sort of stuff, so I apologize for not providing Liz with the materials.
So you understand that it's out there. There's a fact that people have health concerns over cell phone towers, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all have health concerns over it. We've all heard about it. We've all talked about it. So when this comes up, this is like the number one thing people are going to ask about. Having some ugly thing on top of the pole, yeah, whatever. There's ugly things on top of the pole all over. Having health concerns over what's going on is going to be the number one question I'm going to get talked about and asked about, and having to go back to people and answer that question is say, I don't know, but why'd you vote for it? I don't know. So that's where we're at. And I don't mean to put you completely on the spot. It's not, I get it where you're at, you're on your side and you're trying to protect your end of what's going on. And I get that completely because I'm in business too. So trust me when I say that.
Sure.
Can I comment?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, please.
So I'm an amateur radio operator at KI6AJK. I'm limited to 1500 watts. There are regulations. The intensity of the radiation decreases with the square of the distance. Okay. Don't grab the end of the antenna wire when I key the mic. And so I'm limited in terms of how close I can be to the antenna. And so, there's, and they're up in a band where it's not, the lower impact in the frequency range that they're using than some of the lower amateur radio frequencies. And it's all about distance from the antenna. That's in my opinion. Is that helpful or not?
Well, to a point, yes.
Okay.
I think to Commissioner Rogers' point, you're several feet in distance away. We're not putting these outside anyone's windows that they could touch them. We're talking about, 30, 40, 50 feet in the air, a distance away.
Hey, Liz, can I ask a question? Right now we're looking at, and maybe I'm confused. I just want to make sure that I understand what we're looking at, the business item. So basically, we're not looking at a specific permit filed by US Cellular. All we're doing is looking for an amendment to the Title 17, which sets out the guidelines in the event someone was going to apply to go through the hoops, jump through the hoops for a cell tower permit, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And so in Title 17, I don't remember from your presentation, was there anything that addressed any type of reports or health concerns that would be required for them to give if they were applying?
Yeah, they would need to demonstrate that they are not emitting more than what the FCC allows. So the FCC has set a limit, and I don't know what that number is, but up to that limit, cities and counties may not prohibit an antenna or a site, a facility, if it falls under that emission level. So,
Okay, so that's addressed in what
yeah,
we
they would need to just demonstrate that they're not exceeding that amount. And we actually have no authority to deny an application based on that number, those emissions.
And US Cellular at this point, Erin is just here to field questions, and she was kind of used as a consultant because she's a expert in the field, but not necessarily on behalf of US Cellular applying for a permit or anything.
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
she's here on behalf of US Cellular. They do have an interest. I mean, they're a provider, so any provider would have an interest, but they are, planning on submitting an application for sites. So, and they've disclosed that from the beginning, that that's their intention. And they're like, hey, city, it would really help us. It would help you if you had some clear standards. They wanted to operate, with full disclosure and a good set of standards so that they know what to design to. Which I think, I think that's a good way to operate. And they've been just as, as helpful as can be, and without, they haven't been trying to, tell the city what to do at all. It's just, hey, we'd like to submit our applications. We want this process to be easy. And this is coming up anyway. So it really did give the city an awareness. And if you look out there at what's happening in other cities, they're all pretty much, this is one of those things that's a new and up and coming issue. So it is, we're ahead of the game by having this ordinance.
And I like that Chris brought up the health concerns, because I do believe that that's the first thing when people talk cell phone towers and 5G, that's the first thing that comes to their mind. And so I appreciate that he brought that up. I'm just wondering, however, going back to what we're approving right now, we basically are saying that anybody that submits a application would basically have to meet the minimum requirements from the FCC.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep. That's what we're doing. Okay. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, let's open up the public comment. Katie, can you flash that number again, please? And let everybody know who to call and where to call and how to do it.
Once folks call in, the *9 is just to raise their hand. So I'll see if they call in, and then *9 will allow them to speak. So.
Katie, can you put the number up? Or are you trying? It looks like you're trying. There it is. Thank you. So please call that number if you have any questions, comments, concerns. While we're waiting, does anybody else have any comments, anything they want to talk about? So Liz, I got a question. You there?
Yes.
So obviously we didn't draft this from scratch. We went back and looked at what everybody else is doing. So are any of these in any other neighborhood as of yet, and how are they doing?
You mean
Or any of these,
You mean in California or like the
Yeah.
larger area, or do you mean locally?
anywhere?
Yeah, this
That-
was adopted, this format, I mean, it's been modified, definitely. This has been changed to kind of
Suit us.
suit Fortuna, but this is from the city of Coronado down by San Diego.
Okay.
And they have a really good presentation, and it was pretty thoroughly reviewed by an attorney and who has a telecommunications consulting business, so that he assisted and reviewed their form. So that was one of the reasons. And I thought that the tiered system, kind of facilitates cooperation and streamlining, which I think that's always nice to give people options and give them the option of, kind of following what the city would like to see, but then it also gives the city flexibility. So yeah, this is in operation in, Coronado?
Cool, thank you. Is there anybody out there that has these small cell towers up that we know of that are having any kind of issues? Anything going on that we should look at other than what we're seeing now, other than the information we have now?
I mean, what I've seen is, and I reviewed a lot of the ordinances and then the staff reports. So kind of looking at the process, it all kind of seems to, everybody's following the same FCC order as with regards to what's allowed. And it seems like the process, and that's pretty consistent across the board. It does look like some of the cities who've taken a harder stance are, and I don't know how many, but I did see that some are in lawsuits. So it's, and that's kind of to be expected. There's kind of a range of
Absolutely.
approaches that cities might take. But yeah, this is really typical. And I think this is really flexible and feasible for a provider.
Thank you. Katie, you have anybody calling, asking questions yet? Any communication?
I do
with them? Okay, so hearing none. Looking to close public comment.
Public comment. I make the motion to close public comment.
Thank you.
I second.
Katie, can we get a roll call?
Commissioner Blakely,
Yes.
Commissioner Bradley,
Yes.
Commissioner Church,
Yes.
Commissioner Hallie,
Yes.
Commissioner McClendon,
Yes.
Chairman Mobley,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Rogers.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so hearing none out on any of that, anybody have any questions, comments, concerns that we need to talk to staff about anymore, or any more questions to our applicant or, sorry,
Well, it's
to our
sad.
guest?
It's sad that we can't get public comment because there are people that feel strongly about this. And, we're giving them the opportunity to address it and they're just passing on it.
Chairman Mobley, I do have, I'd like to go back to the screen before anyone makes a motion, and I would like there to be a modification to the motion. It's really kind of cleaning things up. It's not changing anything. It's just clarifying that the intent is that this applies to small wireless cell facilities. And that's just adding some clarification language to the code, to the ordinance.
Great.
And I've got that on the screen. And I can, at some point I can read it. I'm not sure how you would make the motion. I guess you'd have to see the screen in order to add that to the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. It's just this last section. So this page shows the recommendation that's in your staff report. And then I just added the last bullet item to modify the draft ordinance by adding small wireless facility WCF to the definition number 12 that's in the ordinance, and then moving the wireless cell facility, which defines the larger structures, in definition 17, and move it to the city's existing 17.06.021 communication structures.
So everybody followed that, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any comments, questions about what's going on? Any more questions to our guest? I'm with you, Larry. I wish more people would have chimed in. But okay, so looking for a motion.
Yeah, I'll make that motion if you want to put that. I saw where that was written in here. I've got the first part of it, but I need that sentence. I'll make a motion to adopt resolution P 2020-3043, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Fortuna recommending that the Fortuna City Council amend the Fortuna zoning code, amending Title 17 zoning regulations of the Fortuna Municipal Code, adding section 1706-220, small wireless communication facilities, and amending section 1707-004. We're going to modify that draft ordinance by adding small wireless facility, WCF, to definition number 12, moving the wireless cell facility definition for larger structures in section 17 to the city's existing 17.06.021 communication structures.
I'll second that.
Wow, I am impressed, Larry. That was good.
Nice job, Larry.
Thank you.
All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Blakely,
No.
Commissioner Bradley,
Yes.
Commissioner Church,
Yes.
Commissioner Hallie,
Yes.
Commissioner McClendon,
Yes.
Chairman Mobley,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Rogers.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. We'll see where the council wants to take it. It doesn't sound like we got a lot of choice. Next is staff report. It looks like we got some information on the back of this thing about what's going on in the city, and can you give us any update on what's happening around town?
Yeah, so this is just your update through reporting in the Community Development Department monthly report for August 2020. This has been to the City Council at their previous meeting, so they've already seen this. And this includes our regular ongoing projects and activities, and the development items that the Planning Commission has approved, and the upcoming projects. I will say that in looking at our list of activities, we're processing 11 subdivisions, and that those are the ones that have been approved. So that's really a lot of juggling and a lot of just processing and supporting those projects. And then it looks like we have a couple of them on the pending projects that have not been to the Planning Commission, as well as some design reviews and some conditional use permits. So just to let you know, there is a lot of activity that we're undertaking, staff and the Planning Commission. And then we're processing those approved subdivisions actually it's kind of a significant amount of daily work. Looking at the building permit summary report, we've got issued 2 single family permits, which is good. That's our average number. So we're still active through the pandemic. In fact, I think the housing activities are pretty active in Humboldt right now with both sales and a lot of buyers out there, people who are moving, but I've also heard stories of people who are leaving Humboldt as well, just as a result of the fires.
In California.
And then as far as we've got the SB2 grant planning activities underway. That's the one that includes the consultants to assist with the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, design review guidelines update, multifamily by right, what we call by right permit processing. And we're meeting with our stakeholders group. So we've convened a group of stakeholders, and those are basically developers who have been through design review, they've been through multifamily development and subdivisions. And so just as a kickoff, we'll be getting their take on what works in Fortuna and what doesn't work, and what they would like to see to help facilitate, development, just to support and streamline development. So over the next, I think, year and a half, 2 years, as this all takes place, the stakeholders group is just going to be, I think it's nice that we're not having them meet, consistently, but they're just going to, which I think would kind of overburden, hardworking people. Thank you, planning commissioners, for your work. But so we're meeting with them for our kickoff meeting tomorrow, and then they'll be meeting 2 other times when they'll be reviewing draft standards, and then the final, and those will be prior to the planning commission. So it'll be stakeholders group, planning commission, council. So there will be a lot of opportunity for public comment and direction by different groups. So we're excited to have that kicking off tomorrow afternoon. And then that'll be followed by, at some point, the planning commission will be definitely kicking into high gear on those things, probably early next year. That's all I have. Are there any questions about any activities in the city other than black houses? Halloween houses. Yeah, and thanks again for your work. I know that cell, you've just had basically the weekend to review that. And, for me, it was a lot of getting used to that technology that I normally don't consider. I know some of you are interested in that kind of thing, Larry, but it's something I've always tuned out. So I think I'm finally, after working on it for a couple months, I'm getting used to it and kind of appreciate it now.
All right. Thank you, Liz, for everything. You guys always working hard.
I agree. Thanks, Liz.
Oh, thanks, you guys.
And Katie, too.
Yep,
Yes.
absolutely. Anybody have anything going on they want to bring up? Anything on the background that's happening? All right, looking for a motion to close, everybody.
I'll make the motion, we close.
Second.
I'll second that.
All right. I think we're all in favor. Do we need to go through it? Katie?
Your microphone's off, Katie. Katie, you're muted.
Okay. Roll call vote. Commissioner Blakely.
Yes.
Commissioner Bradley.
Yes.
Commissioner Church.
Yes.
Commissioner Hallie.
Yes.
Commissioner McClendon.
Yes.
Chairman Mobley.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Rogers.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week.
Thank you,
Good night, guys.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night.